Well, here it is, the Alberta provincial budget for 2018-19. And for the first time, the government's spelling out a path to actually balance the budget. In other words, no more deficits. There'll be a deficit this year, $8.8 billion. Next year, about $7.9 billion and $7 billion, and shrinking down till there's no more deficit in 5 years. That's the good news. The bad news is that when you add up all the consecutive deficits over the years, we'll have a debt of $96 billion in 2023. Now, that number is not actually in this document. It's not a number the government's really proud of, but it's a number that will be hanging over the government's head the next few years. And the government does have some good news in here. Things are up, the economy is improving, growth about 4.5% last year, 2.7% growth this year, and things are getting better, but there's still that debt hanging over our heads. And also the projections in this budget are reliant on things like getting the Kinder Morgan pipeline expansion built to the west coast, to Tidewater, to get more bitumen to the Asian market, to bring more money into Alberta and more money into the government's revenues. So this is an issue moving forward, but the government's saying things are getting better, and they are, but maybe not fast enough and not good enough. And at the end of it, we'll have that $96 billion debt. Now, the government's saying this is a price it's decided to pay to keep people employed, to keep borrowing money to build schools and roads and hospitals, but it's still going to be a big question mark over the government a year from now when it actually goes to an election. Now, speaking of that, if you've been thinking the government's going to call a snap election this year, I think this budget kind of does away with that speculation, because this is not a pre-election budget. This is not a good news budget. I expect we'll see a much more rosy budget a year from now, just ahead of the 2019 election. I'm Graham Thomson with the Edmonton Journal.